Hello, hello, my friends. It is Aldo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. I am your host, Jarod, the Dark Jedi, Bachman Stubbs, and we are here for an episode a little bit later than normal. The 4th of July week threw everybody's schedules off. So we are here talking about the most recent episode of The Acolyte. This will be coming out Sunday, like late Sunday night. So you'll have a little bit of time to kind of use this as a recap to get you ready for the penultimate episode this coming week. But I am not alone. I am joined by returning guests. It's a small panel this evening, so I'm excited. It's just me and one Bill Sheehy.
Hello there, my friend. Just like Chimere in this week's episode, I am HOTTOGO. I'm hot to go, and I'm ready to go. I am,
and you keep coming.
I'm gonna come.
I'm gonna come. I'm really disappointed. It just occurred to me that I should have that edit in the StreamYard. It's been posted on Twitter where it's Chase, that gay Jedi, doing the "Do not come,
do not come."
Hard cutting to me on the Bombad cast with a peanut butter and jelly beer in my hand, going, "I'm gonna come."
And we all certainly did in that moment. Together, we were infinite.
We all did. In that moment, we were in an infinite orgasm.
We were incommit. Is that a thing? Incommit. Who cares?
I like incommit. I like incommit. I think incommit is a great way to start the show.
I totally agree.
And you know what helps me get incommit, Bill?
What's that? Oh, I already know. It's Bloody Mary mix, isn't it?
It's Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. They also have their award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus if you want to get your freak on, and and garnish that bad boy as well as some rim salt if you're feeling freaky. This former bartender will not touch a Bloody Mary mix unless it is Sunday's Bloody Mary. The only Bloody Mary mix I think is even like here's the thing. Most Bloody Mary mixes live in a region of mid that is consistently outperformed by a Bloody Mary made from scratch. And then Sunday's Bloody Mary somehow, some way comes out the gate surpassing all of it. Like, it is the only Bloody Mary mix I want that I could ever have that could surpass a from scratch Bloody Mary. So use the description down below and use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. And while I'm in a plugging mood, everybody, I just want to remind you.
Plug the holes.
That if you go to the Nerd Academy podcast TeePublic, you will find, let me get to it, our newest shirt, my pride and joy, I made this and giggled like a little idiot the entire time. The Cookie Cop vintage t-shirt. And I say that because they're doing another 20% off.
Step away from the cookie.
Step away from the cookie jar. Spencer has ordered one. Last week's guest, Regan, our dear friend, has also ordered one. So join this club of cool cats and get yourself some Cookie Cop merch. And I plan on uploading this pretty much the moment we're done. So this sale will still be going on for like another few hours. So if you get over there quick.
Are Cookie Cop cookies pork flavored?
You know, that's a really good question.
I don't know. is Cookie Cop a cop, or is Cookie Cop a higher being that has that has no need to be a cop? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think Cookie Cop is just the form he assumes.
Okay.
I think any of the baggage and iconography that came with a police officer shaped cookie jar became moot the moment the eldritch abomination that currently occupies this vessel entered it.
Okay, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense.
Like, we call it Cookie Cop because that's like what it is. That's what it says on his arm. But like, that thing is beyond.
There is deep lore, deep Cookie Cop lore that we have yet to unsurface, which I'm really excited for.
He is a supremely powerful being that makes Abeloth look like a bitch.
Oh wow, damn. Well, look forward to seeing him in Ahsoka season 2.
Yes.
So.
He is the true villain, not the mother, not Abeloth. It is actually Cookie
That's
Cop.
who the statue of the father is pointing towards. It's just Cookie Cop.
If Abeloth really is in season 2 of Ahsoka, I'm gonna have a fucking field day.
Admittedly, I don't know a lot about Abeloth. I know kind of how they tie to father and the daughter and the son and all that, but I don't know, is it just evil incarnate? Is that just
basically?
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like Darkside Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the easiest way to describe it. Is it's a very Lovecraftian concept brought into Star Wars. Speaking of, I just need to. So I've said this on air a couple times. How I'm making my way through the Yuzan Vong War story in Legends, the new Jedi Order books, and I've been using the versions of the audiobooks on Audible, which are the abridged versions.
Is that Mark Thompson?
Unfortunately, Mark Thompson is not narrating them. I can't remember the name of the narrator, but the narrators have been good. But it's not a Mark Thompson joint. And I must say, now I try to avoid abridged audiobooks because I don't like getting only a chunk of the story. I don't like having the story yada 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 through. However, doing the abridged audiobooks, which again, for anybody listening, and I know this applies to Bill, Star Wars audiobooks, especially the adult length books, are clocking in at over 20 hours. Typically. The Vong New Jedi Order books have been around I think the longest one I've hit has been 4.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's that's a long car ride. That's
yeah.
That's basically a day trip. That's a day. And so that's I think for me, that's for some of those Audible books, I'm re-listening to Light of the Jedi right now, and that's a 15, 16 hour book. And it's great, but it's so much. It's just to commit to that amount of time. I understand what you're saying, with you don't want to have Cliff Notes version of that, but at the same time, if you're hitting all the beats and getting the same stuff,
so that brings me to just a funny little wrinkle I wanted to bring up, just while I'm on my Star Wars podcast, and I can talk about whatever the fuck I want. So I had recently gotten through Star by Star, which is apparently the longest book in that series. The audiobook is also only 3.5 hours long.
Okay.
Bill, what would you do if I told you that among the things that got abridged out of the book was the battle for, sacking of, and conquest of Coruscant by the Yuzan Vong?
That feels pretty important. I'm gonna say
they yada 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 through Coruscant being taken over by the Vong. And when I started the next book, they're like, the Yuzan Vong after the capture of Coruscant by the Yuzan Vong. I was like,
wait, what?
The fucking what of by who? Where now?
On whose authority?
I was because I was so shocked, and I sincerely want to go back and get all of Star by Star, because not only does Coruscant fall, Anakin Skywalker is killed by the Vong in that book too. Or Anakin Solo, rather.
Gotcha.
Anakin Solo is killed by the Vong. So we have the death of one of the Solo children and the fall of Coruscant, all while the Galactic Republic low-key turned on the Jedi. Like, all of that happening at once. And they mostly just kind of focus on the mission that gets Anakin Solo killed. Which, like, important.
Right.
One of the main 3 characters of this series dies in the line of duty.
Mm-hmm.
Very important beat to hit. I also think the fall of Coruscant's a pretty big one too.
Yeah, that feels like you might have wanted to focus on that a little bit, but what do I know? I'm just on again, off again Star Wars podcaster. That's
I felt like I was going crazy. Because part of me was like, Star Wars loves to drop you in the middle of an ongoing story. So maybe it happens between books. And I was like looking it up online and I'm seeing like in Star by Star and Star by. I'm like, motherfucker. So then I texted friend of the show, Buck O'Brien, who's been riding shotgun with me for most of my after show live streams each night after the Acolyte drops. And I was like, hey, am I crazy? Or did they just not tell me the Vong took Coruscant? And he was like, no, they completely skip it in the audiobook. But anyway, I just wanted to bitch about that. But I felt like I was losing my mind.
No, you weren't. That's ridiculous.
It's insane. Like, holy shit. Well, now I want the new Jedi Order books to get the Essential Legends collection treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Now I really do, because like all of the books that were abridged got an unabridged version. Okay. With the Essential Legends collection. Like when they did that for Darth Maul Shadowhunter, there was an abridged audiobook that was like 2.5 hours long. And then after they did the Essential Legends version, they did an unabridged audiobook narrated by Sam Witwer.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I'm over here like, hey, y'all, can we please let Mark Thompson like take a crack at this fucking series?
I think he could. I think he could.
I will happily buy these books a second fucking time to know everything that happened. At least I will buy Star by Star so I can hear the Battle of Coruscant. But anyway, all of that said, all of my bitching about the new Jedi Order audiobooks. Bill, how you feeling about this most recent episode of The Acolyte?
Man, it's so interesting to me because like last week's episode with what was it, Night, where you had everything go down, you had like just like stereotypical great Star Wars shit. Like just lightsabers and Jedi and Sith and all this. So it's like it felt like that was the like big explosion after all the buildup that we had gotten. And this felt like more great buildup to like what's going to be the finale. Cause like, I think, I forget who said it, but like last week, like all the pieces that are about that the show is about are now in play, or all now on the board.
Yeah.
Let's see where it goes from here. I think the most intriguing thing to me is definitely the Chimere and Osha relationship, because it's looking how May and Osha like are first introduced in this episode. When Chimere realizes, okay, this is Osha, he doesn't like bond her, doesn't do like anything. She just like wakes up in bed and like just lets her run around. It's the complete opposite when Soul finds out that it's May. And so I think it's just the clear seduction of Osha by Chimere is really, really interesting. And like this episode was so deeply Last Jedi coded that like I know it was on purpose. I'm curious to see like what reason, like how is that going to pay off? Like, is this like, okay, you know, in The Last Jedi, you have Rey and Ben, like they're connecting through the Force and all that. But like ultimately Rey turns away from Ben and turns away from the dark side. I kind of think it's going to be the opposite. I think Osha, like they are fully like Osha's like turning to the dark side, like, or is at least going to test it and probably be better than May was in some capacity, or at least a more willing student. But overall, like I really, really dug this episode. It was a lot more of a slow burn because I think we all needed a beat to breathe because like so much happened after last week, and it was so
we all needed to come up for air.
Yeah, it was an emotionally taxing episode, like in the best way possible.
Yeah.
So like, I really dug it. What did you think?
You know, I again, I am a very strong advocate for and believer in the George Lucas poetry quote.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people laugh at it. I know a lot of people think it's funny. It is a quote that I like that when I first heard those words, it's like poetry. It rhymes, each line kind of rhymes with the next one. Like when I first heard him talk about that and like give the specific parallels of Obi-Wan will watch his master die as Obi-Wan will be the master who dies down the road, and Anakin will destroy this craft as his son later will. Like when I first heard that when I was 11, it like I started fucking levitating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I that was the moment where like I think I started to truly unlock Star Wars as a kid. That and my like ADHD special interest watching Star Wars The Legacy Revealed every day before school. I watched that documentary every day and was like talking to my friends at the age of like 11 and 12 about fucking Joseph Campbell and his relationship to Star Wars. It's why I get along with Scotty so well.
It's the hero's journey, really.
It's the hero's journey, you know. It's the monomyth. You know, you're 12 saying monomyth in language arts, and the teacher looks at you weird. But no, I've always loved that. I think it's so important to what the story that Star Wars is designed to tell. That the core themes are evergreen and that they will always echo back to each other and like kind of be in this beautiful harmony with each other, that you will see people zig where other characters have zagged and be able to kind of like put them, juxtapose them and learn more about what the metaphor is, what the story is trying to tell you, and you learn more about yourself looking through both of these diverting paths in the aggregate. So for me, watching this episode, you know, all of these clear, unsubtle parallels to The Last Jedi are so poignant, especially because they are, in a very Sith way, the perfect inversion and manipulation and perversion of all of those beats and all of those themes and what all of this is meant to represent. Chimere, the stranger, whatever we want to call him, might just be the best the best spokesman for the Sith code that we've ever seen. Not just because he's eye candy, but because he's really good at selling those very like, but if you think about it, kind of things.
And that's what I love about this series more than anything. I'm still like, I think they're gonna stick the landing, but all of the stuff that they've introduced, like, have been so interesting and fresh to like this year. Like the way he describes like the dark side, where it's like the emotions that are just at the surface, fear, anger, like the way he's like is seducing her to the dark side is so interesting to me, because like it's just a new perspective on what the dark side is. And like I think it might have been you, I can't remember who said it, but it was talking about how like it's Yoda compared it to like it's the easy way or something like that, and like this is like the nicest version like of that. Like it's almost another thing I love about the show is like fundamentally changing like our view of like, okay, are the Jedi good? Because like yes, I think at the end of the day, but at the same time, like Chimere is like, well, actually, like good as a point of view, you know, like it's more of that. It's more like gray, you know, like as you are the gray Jedi.
We are on the same faction. I do not need to be catching strays from you, Bill. Come on.
You're right. I'm sorry. That was a cheap shot. You can edit that out.
I won't be.
I know you won't be editing that out.
I don't have time.
I'm giving you permission. Like it's an empty.
It takes 13 hours to render, Bill. I have to have this out before Tuesday. Bill.
It's okay. You're right. I'm so sorry. Don't edit it out. Anyway, I lost the thread there. But yes,
Shades of Gray.
Yeah, Shades of Gray. Yes,
no pun intended with how horny the show.
50. Is. Yes, absolutely. It's somehow hornier than 50 Shades of Gray. Like it's just like fully like, hey, come bathe in the ocean with me. Take your clothes off. You know.
Absolutely, you know, and I think what makes it so fascinating, and I need to go back and find it. You know, I have a rule where I try desperately to not listen to Force Center before I record my reviews. But it calls to me. Mm-hmm. I see it sitting in that little Spotify dashboard. Begging
like,
beckoning
you know,
to me.
What else am I gonna do? You know, I'm
at work and I'm re-tagging shoes and there's no new knowledge fight out yet. I don't have the bandwidth to listen to Behind the Bastard. Put on Force Center. And then I spend the entire episode trying not to just regurgitate what Ken and Joseph said, because they say what I'm thinking, but way more eloquently than I ever could.
So what are you regurgitating? Is what
I love how Chimere is doing he's doing a very good, and I loved hearing somebody else compare the dark side to the alt-right. A very good somebody who isn't me did it, everybody. Someone who isn't me did the thing.
It so is though. Like it's like it's not like you're not like, yeah, that's like one of those moments where like, yeah, obviously somebody just had to say it. So anyway,
but there were apparently in the 5th episode, Chimere gives a direct Jordan Peterson quote that somehow went over my head.
What was it?
I don't remember. I don't know what it was. I need to look it up. But apparently, like Chimere says some, you know, I mean, he didn't bend over and go clean your room to OSHA at any point, but apparently he like speaks of he says a Peterson quote, and that kind of informs Chimere's pitch here, because to go into the text, to go into the world of Star Wars, and then bring it back out into the real world in a moment. You know, like you said, there is the Yoda, it's quicker, it's easier, you know, all of those things. Here you're getting this really soft touch, like I know a lot of people online like to call it therapy speak, like weaponized therapy speak.
Yeah.
Where you'll have a toxic partner who uses all of this lingo that has made its way into the common vernacular and weaponize it to make somebody that they're being toxic to or manipulating feel guilty for pushing back on it. You kind of see that with Chimere here, that there is this, yes, like the path of the dark side requires anger and fear, but also desire and loss. And doesn't it feel so much better to let go of all of those, or to embrace all those negative emotions instead of trying to hide them and fight them all the time? Let them guide you, because it's more freeing that way. You know, that this whole idea that you can tap into those emotions and that the Force is almost inherently giving you permission to do so by virtue of being present within you, that those emotions exist as its own like ipso facto validation for giving into the dark side. And this whole cell of, oh, you're the prisoner, but you're the one with a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and there's so many moments where Kymir will say shit like that very much like you're listening to a real figurehead on the right, go, spew whatever bile they want to philosophically, has to deliberately dance around the reality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, oh, you're the one sitting here with a weapon. I watched you put 8 Jedi Masters on your ass without barely moving your arm. What do you like? Her having a lightsaber doesn't mean jack rib shit right now, and you know that. And that is the genius of the deception.
She's getting gaslit to join the dark side, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. He's gaslighting the girl boss.
Oh no, not the girl boss.
But you have that, and you have this faux vulnerability, that again, down to he is stripped naked, he is stripped bare, and just kind of sits there before her, unarmed, unfazed. You have all the power. I submit to you completely. That it is all in theory. This is all an idea of him being helpless and him being open and him being all these things, and it is to sell the deception, to sell this idea that, you should let your anger run rampant, and again, it is this very, my right to exist, a state's right to what kind of thing with him, where it's like, I had to kill those Jedi to maintain my right to exist. You killed those Jedi to maintain the existence of the Sith.
Well, and also put them in, you set the trap basically.
They did that. No, you got the ball rolling. You convinced May to go on this rampage that killed these Jedi, that led them to Kofar, and when she went rogue, something you didn't account for, you had to reveal yourself and kill all the witnesses. They didn't do shit. You did this. Own it. And that's the thing, is that he won't, because if he does, if he needs Osha rather to view the Jedi in this very myopic way, to be somebody who has firsthand experienced the failings of the Order, to capitalize on that wound. That he's forcing onto her. And again, I say this as somebody who has the Last Jedi in my number one spot, who is a proud Reylo. Okay? I say all of that to say he's hitting the same beats Kylo Ren did in the throne room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've always said that I don't think Kylo Ren is actively trying to be malicious with the "you're nothing, you're no one, but not to me." That he's trying to hammer home that whole idea, there you have no place in this, but that doesn't fucking matter, is what I think is intended by that. As caustic as it may come out, here, I don't even think there is any of that pretense here. Kymir wants to put the idea in Ocean's head. They threw you away. Mm-hmm. They didn't want you. At the same time that he's love bombing her with the, Soul didn't find you because he's powerful. He found you because you're powerful, because you're a beacon within the Force. That it is that love bomb, take you at the knees at the same time. He is, in the words of the great American poet Kendrick Lamar, a habitual liar and a master manipulator too. It is all right there.
Let me ask you this: do you think that he's being truthful when he says he's a former Jedi? Because that's part of me, okay, that's really, really interesting. That, okay, so if you want to talk about, Star Wars as poetry, it rhymes. A fallen Jedi becoming a Sith. That's a line that gets repeated a lot. So it's
almost the chorus of the song of Star Wars.
Absolutely. So but at the same time, given that he is gaslighting her to join the dark side, I think since Osha is a former Jedi, I think she would be more willing to listen to someone who says that they are a former Jedi, even if they're lying, so maybe that if it's also a part of the manipulation, that's great because that's just another like, oh, the dark side is right because they're always lying to us. But at the same time, like if he is a former Jedi, like I want to know, like, okay, so how does he fit into all this? How, like, it's the familiarity that like Soul was talking about when like he had his mask on. I think the master apprentice thing is stupid, but like maybe he was a former Jedi that he knew at some point. So
or he
like,
just senses a familiar presence from when they were in the shop.
Yeah,
I think there's that.
More likely than not, I think that's it. But like, if there is more backstory to that, that's interesting to me.
So to answer your question, I do think it was a former Jedi. Mm-hmm. Because again, another important thing here, another big theme of this show has been this idea of it's a big thing of the fucking prequels, is institutional decay. And the way that the people who are failed by our institutions, who fall by the wayside because there was too much on the plate and too many plates spinning and too much going on and too much institutional power given to a given body, that human individuals fell through the cracks. And when they were lost, very much like in the real world, other malignant bodies that recognize the use they could have swallows them up whole and radicalizes them and turns them. So, especially with the whole idea of, like Daphne Keane was talking about, like the infiltration of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. I do not think Vernestra Rowe is a dark side force user of any ilk. I do not think she's a Sith Lord. I don't like, again, theory crafting is fun. Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren. Like, we can all have a gay time and that's fine. And I love it. And everybody theory craft to your heart's delight.
A good old fashioned gay time outside of Pride,
And yeah, exactly. Theorize to your heart's delight. I do not begrudge you that. I think that theory's silly. And I think it misses the core nuance of this show, that to have failed means that you have turned to the dark side. That institutional decay, that the Jedi have failed in some way, does not make them inherently bad, evil, or wrong. It just means they are imperfect and are incapable of recognizing that. So I do think if KNR is, again, somebody who fell through the cracks, who felt dismissed, disowned, and cast aside by the Jedi Order, for him to turn around and be scooped up by, again, a Sith Master, maybe he's founding the Knights of Ren, whatever. Again, I think we are still working in the world of the capital S, capital L Sith Lords. Mm-hmm. That he was scooped up, he was swallowed up by this ideology, and it corrupted him because it knew the exact things it needed to say to him. In the same way that the dark side knew exactly what to say to Anakin Skywalker, who is another case of somebody falling through the cracks, who is a case of somebody who the system was not ready to accommodate in any real way, and allowed him to be groomed and seduced by the Emperor, all while the institution itself was constantly finger wagging at Anakin and not actually trying to engage with him on an individual level. It is a similar corruption we see happen to Ben Solo. It is a similar but in a different direction corruption that we see with Dagan Gera. That this whole idea of, like, it is the power of the institution has been proved fallible. It has been proved capable of being fucked up and capable of fucking up. That in that doubt, in that moment of, well, I don't know what to do with myself, the Sith come through and they're like, hey, they tell you that passion is immoral, even though that's not what the Jedi say. Mm-hmm. We're going to tell you that that's what they actually mean. But don't you want to embrace those feelings? You feel anger. They tell you that's shameful. Embrace the anger. Embrace the hatred. Let fear dominate you so that you can then dominate fear and use it as a weapon. Like, it is this constant inversion of all of the Jedi doctrine that allows somebody who's been failed by the Order to very, very easily want to throw in with it. I think I mentioned this when I was on Bombadcast this past week. Like, that idea is something, and if I'm being very personal about it, that idea is baked into my character in Ionized Bastards. You know, Fabian Martel, like, the whole thing is he is an ex-Inquisitor. And I love, and it's something that the Star Wars Jedi games kind of posit as an interesting question of what do all of these ex-Jedi tell themselves to justify them hunting down their brothers and sisters? What do you have to tell yourself to make that okay? And with me, my interpretation with Fabian was always he's projecting his own failings onto it. That in his mind, the Jedi he was in hiding with, the Jedi he fell in love with, he could not protect them, and they paid the price for it. And that he projects that onto the Jedi Order. That if the Jedi Order could not have saved itself from the Emperor's machinations, it deserves to be destroyed. Because they failed everybody within it by letting this like chink in the armor be penetrated. And I think, and I again, in my own personal interpretation of Star Wars, I think that ideology is something, and that worldview and that projection is what dominates the fallen Jedi archetype of the Order failed me. And it failed me in these specific ways. So I must punish it for that failure, for showing it that not only did it fail me on an individual level, its ideology is entirely flawed and failed. And let me punish it with that inversion.
Well, I think it's kind of like with any ideology, the minute you actually put people in it, like it's like it becomes
the moment you actually put people in it, that's a great way of fucking phrasing that.
Like, because like that's the thing, like with like communism, like great on paper, then you put people in it and then they fuck it up. Like, that's just like that's it. So like, once again, going back to my point earlier, what I love about this
I also
show,
went on for way too long.
No. That's fucking great. I love that, because I think we are, what this show does a really, really good job of is fundamentally like changing the way we look at the Jedi in the galaxy and how they operate. And like, hey, you know, maybe not taking kids away from their families at like 3 or 4 years old isn't a great thing. Like, what do we do? Why are we doing that? Like, I think just being able to like flip the narrative on its head, that like, let's look and see what the Jedi are actually doing, and how this all relates to, you know, what we've come to know as the Jedi. And then of course, with like, now they're doing that with the Sith or the Knights of Ren, because I once again, I think that there's a pretty decent chance that like this could be an origin story for the Knights of Ren, and that's perfectly
on the table. There's absolutely stuff in the text to support that.
Why would you play Kylo Ren's theme at the end of the last episode, like, if it didn't mean something? So like, showing the origins of that, and also or whatever they're doing, I'm just really, really intrigued, because it's just such a different interpretation of Star Wars. Like, but like, it's still staying true to like the Star Wars. Like, it still feels like Star Wars. I hate saying that, because like, that's like, oh, it feels like Star Wars. That's so like baseline, like whatever, but it does at the end of the day.
Hard
like,
to quantify. That is different between everybody. Like, again, as somebody who Andor is incredible fucking television. It is a marvelous show with rich themes, and there is a lot of Star Wars, capital S, capital W, shit in that show. It doesn't have certain things for me.
I agree.
Star Wars. That
I agree.
It's harder for me to invest in the way that I wanted to.
I totally agree, and we have been very, very lucky over the past like year, because we've gotten Ahsoka and the Acolyte and Bad Batch, which, you know, like that, it just scratches that itch to a lesser extent, but like the live action shows have done like really, really weird Force things in Ahsoka, and then really different, really cool Force stuff and like Jedi like intrigue in the Acolyte, which is like that's what I want. That's what Star Wars is to me, and I love that shit.
sensational. And that's his word.
I love cheesecake.
But no, speaking on the, I do want to, just one last thing on the Chimere. I caught myself, but I have to say it now. I would say one last thing on the Chimere tip.
Hey, what's going on, man?
One last thing on the Chimere of it all and the seduction. Like, it's something that I really love. That harvests this. Again, it takes everything on Octo in The Last Jedi and it inverts it so beautifully, where it takes this idea of, like you said, like, what if Kylo Ren was actually there? Or, which is a great way of putting it. I've been describing it as like, what if Rey went to Octo and found Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Instead of Luke. And you're getting these lessons, you're getting these big picture ideas of like, okay, I'm not going to actually answer a single question for you. I'm going to ask you a lot of fucking questions that I want you to answer for yourself. And that's the important thing here. And that is so much of what Chimere does. And I love this. I love how aggressively literal, and I know Leslie hasn't talked about this, but I love how aggressively literal the word seduction is used here. That it is so very clearly this, because again, it's so loaded and it is so horny, but it is also just full of these rich themes of like that tenderness, that softness that you can't get from the Jedi. They're not that you can't get it, because it is there. We've seen it, Elzar Mann and Avar Kriss fucking, like, well, and I said it that way. They are fucking. Well,
it's,
what are you gonna say?
It's interesting. I'm like curious, like how like the different like ways like he's like seduced May as opposed to the way he's seducing Osha, because I feel like because he never showed his face to May, that was very like lighting the flames of like the Jedi suck. They killed your mother.
Anger,
all that
hatred,
anger,
revenge.
Exactly. This is more like, hey girl, let me tell you something. Jedi, pretty cool, because like
it's
now
the difference. Like using real world radicalization comparison again, it is the difference between somebody who is just like trapped in the fucking Chan boards, who's seeing the most heinous, vile shit, who is mask off online all the time, all the slurs, all of the dog whistles, all of the this, all of the that, versus somebody who is like, again, back to the Jordan Peterson of it all, who is giving you clean your room. Where it's this very soft.
That's all the episode is just Chimere saying, clean your room.
Clean your room. Like the Jedi, they threw you away. But it is but that's the difference though. It is the difference between like mask off, cartoonish, like visceral hatred, which is clearly what he did with May. It was it was waxing poetic about, you can't kill an individual Jedi, you have to kill the idea of the Jedi. Well, you flip over to Osha and he's like, oh, I need a softer touch, especially because she knows who I am now. So now it has to be, I want to empower you to come to the conclusion I want you to. And I think that's the big difference there.
Yeah, I think so too. It's once again, it's so interesting the different ways that he's seducing her, because like it's the horniest Star Wars has ever been, and I'm including The Last Jedi in that, because that is just like truly like, come swim with me in the sexy ocean while I'm naked. Like, it's crazy.
It is. It really is. But with all of that, I do want to talk about I do want to like take a detour before we go to May and Soul. And I do want to talk about the Vernestra storyline, because what I really love there is, again, talking about institutional decay, talking about, resting on your laurels and decadence. We see the fruition of something that was teed up earlier in the season. with this idea of, well, if you tell the council, they have to tell the Senate, and they tell the Senate, it's going to be a whole fucking thing. And if the Senate gets involved, and they know that we're not indestructible, and that one of our own when they still thought it was OSHA, and one of our own went rogue and is killing our fucking people, and then they find out like, oh, it was the twin, but well, if we tell them about this, then there's going to be questions about what the fuck happened with this twin, and I don't let's answer any fucking questions about Brendock, and oh shit, like it's probably a rogue Jedi, and well, you got to talk about that, so we got to nip this in the bud, don't tell anybody until everything's already handled. That I think a lot of people like to oversimplify what is wrong with the Jedi in the prequels. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people love to do this thing where we say, oh, well, the Jedi became too involved in galactic politics, and the Jedi became too involved with the Senate, and nobody ever explains what the fuck that means. The Jedi became political. What do you mean? They, again, much like Star Wars and people saying it wasn't before, but is now, have always had a political place. You have and I know they don't call themselves an army, but like, let's be real with each other for a moment. You have an army of all-powerful fucking space wizards with laser swords that if they wanted to at any moment could topple the galactic government.
Yep.
So they have a responsibility, if they want to use their power for good, to have a relationship with the governing body of the galaxy, to try to steer it in the right direction, to help as much as they can where they can, and uphold those ideals as best that they can. And I think that when it gets boiled down to, oh, they were too involved with the Republic, it's weird. The issue was that the Jedi were too involved in doing the bidding of the Republic. That there came a point, and again, I hate the Jedi are cops and therefore our bad interpretation of things, but there came a point where they were an enforcing arm of the Galactic Republic. Mm-hmm. That they had more to do with making sure the Republic, making sure the trains and the ships were on time, kind of thing, than they were doing their duty. It's the whole point of the Living Force book, is that they have been too busy in meetings and delegating and doing too much of the like busy work of the Senate, that they got distracted from, oh, here's this planet in the Outer Rim that's overrun by pirates, that the economy is falling apart, that the environment is falling apart, and all of the things that kept this planet running were things instituted by the Jedi, and the Jedi said, hey, take it easy, and fucked off to Coruscant. And shit like that is the problem, and we're seeing the early stages of that here, with this terror of the Senate finding out that shit might not be hunky-dory.
I saw a description for some Rey Skywalker related thing where she talked about like the Jedi of old were about healing the galaxy and healing the wounds of the galaxy. Going off your point, they've gotten too far away from healing the wounds of the galaxy, being in those rooms where they're in the Senate and they're talking politics and all that stuff. And I think that's why I love Light of the Jedi so much, is because like, okay, we've had like, prequel Jedi, we've had Jedi in the sequels and in the originals, but like to look like the Jedi are coming and they're here to like save the day, like, and like they're a true force for good, like that's what they should. They're out there healing the galaxy, and that's like, I love that they're showing like them getting away from that in like the beginnings of what we eventually see in the prequels and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with this whole thing of like the one Abednetto senator being like, it's just going to be like a routine audit. Like, you're the Jedi. It's not like you have anything to hide. And watching Vernestra go,
totally nothing.
Everything's okay over here. How are you? Like,
situation normal,
Yeah, like that's Vernestra's reaction to it, because she knows that not everything is in order, and that there is this desire to keep everything above board. For obvious reasons. Don't love to make Harry Potter comparisons as much these days, but it is it. But like it's the easiest one to think of. It is the nobody wants to believe that Voldemort is returned.
Yep.
It is so much easier to not say that that's real than to engage with it. And when the Sith are knocking on their door in the Phantom Menace, they all do the same thing. They all do the same thing until one of the beacons of the Order dies on Naboo.
It's the he's back.
that is the oh shit.
Oh yeah, he's back. He's back.
It took Qui-Gon Jinn getting stabbed in the heart for them to go, oh no.
Yeah.
And even then, and granted, we don't know much about the 10 years between Menace and Clones, but even then, Mace Windu and Yoda are at Qui-Gon Jinn, and they're like, so was it the Master or the Apprentice? And I'm fucking no, man.
And then we're going to hold that up for about 10 years.
And we're just going to be like, I hope that's not a problem again. Which is where I think this show ends. I do truly think this show ends. I'll talk about it more in depth with my theory here coming into the penultimate episode. But like, I do think this show ends with okay, so like that Sith is dead. We're okay, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about this again, right? Because Vernestra, whether she meant to or not, did a really good job of teeing up this idea. It's a rogue Jedi. It's a dark Jedi. Someone flew off the handle and did some fuck shit, but you know what? We handled it. We took care of it. We killed them. Oh, they fell off a cliff. They exploded. We don't have a body, but hey, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We're good, right? She is so capable of just hand waving all of that away and never having to say the S word to anybody on the council.
I agree with you because I think it ultimately will end with them like either they'll say Kymir's the master and either Osha or May is the apprentice, and then if both of them die, then they can just be like, "Yep, no problem, don't have to worry about this ever again," and then obviously they'll have to worry about them again. So
yeah, and again, it is that hubris that our lives are easier if we don't have this threat looming over us. And to go back to what I was saying about the issue is not the Jedi being involved in politics at large. It is the red tape politics of it all that is the problem. Something like this, the Galactic Senate at large, knowing the Sith have returned and we are on notice for something horrible happening because what this ideology brings with it. It could have saved trillions.
Yeah, truly.
Trillions. Again, if we, I've said this before, but truly, look at the fucking body count here. We have how many horrific battles throughout the literally just start at the Clone War. Just start at the Clone War. Like fuck everything in the 100 years between this show and the Phantom Menace. Start at the war. Start at the Clone War. We have how many horrific battles during the Clone Wars that then turns into how many terrifying campaigns that the Empire wages to conquer entire worlds, to put down rebellions, the ethnic cleansing of the Geonosians, the genocide of the Jedi Order, the annihilation of Alderaan, Operation Cinder, Starkiller Base, the Final Order. Trillions of lives will be lost, will be snuffed out in the name of Sith domination. And we could have stopped it right here. While they were still gearing up for this, with 100 years to go on the grand plan, could have pulled the plug on it. But because we can't look bad in front of our bosses, we're going to choose not to do that because we think we have it handled. And it's an arrogance that stems from the Jedi having this unmitigated record of wins. It is we came to power. We became the Galactic Republic's best buddy. We wiped out the Sith. We defeated the Nile. We averted all these catastrophes. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. Oh fuck, they're back. We beat them before. We got it. We got it. We got it. We got it. Execute Order 66. Death.
Complacency, man.
Kills them all.
It does.
Trillions dead.
That's the headline there. Trillions dead.
Trillions dead.
There it is.
Trillions dead. Green bald lady with pronouns to blame. But Alderaan was destroyed because of woke. But to, kind of pivot there and talk about the Soul and May storyline. Again, another theme that I've loved, that I have been so enraptured by. And I love shit like this. I love when this might sound stupid and this might sound rudimentary, and I'll take that L if I sound like I love when Star Wars is red. His face is blue because he's good, and his face is red because he's bad. Like, I don't want to state the obvious here. But boy, do I love when a theme statement is like the first word out of a character's mouth. When the first words you hear a character speak are going to define their arc for the rest of the story. That shit specifically, like that is a certain thing that I enjoy specifically. It makes me so happy. So when you have one of the first words that Soul says in this whole show, I dropped my eraser and I got to pick it up. When the first words out of Soul's mouth basically are, "Don't trust your eyes; they can deceive you. Trust in the Force." And we have somebody who is consistently being deceived by his eyes. I love that. I positively, absolutely motherfucking love it. That it is, don't trust your eyes, they can deceive you. Well, I watched her die. I looked at the Sith Lord's eyes while he was unmasked before he dropped the charade. And then all the way to we're here on the ship, and it takes May literally saying a more jaded version of "Don't trust your eyes, they can deceive you, trust in the Force," of we see what we want to see because we see what we think we want. For Soul to be like, "Yep, you're right." Shit. It's that, but that has been his arc. And again, it is a sure-footedness that the Jedi have in their own ideology, that they say these things, they say these platitudes, but oftentimes forget to really analyze what they mean and apply it to themselves. That they're going through the motions of the Jedi ideology, but fail to recognize when they're not holding up their end of the bargain.
Now, let me ask you this. So we talked about earlier that how Chimere is gaslighting Osha to turn to the dark side. Do we think that Soul knew that it was May from the beginning? Or do you think, because I think part of me is of the mind that he kind of looks at May kind of the same way he looks at Osha a little bit. He feels responsible for what happened to her, and maybe he feels maybe it's coming from a place of coming from a naive place. But if I just explain to her what happened, I can make this right. And then, or do you think that he was truly he didn't know it was her? And that's another thing where okay, what you were saying, don't believe your eyes. Your eyes can deceive you. Trust only in the Force. Maybe this is another thing where because he was so out of balance, he wasn't feeling the Force in the way that he should have, and didn't know that it was not Osha. What do you think?
This is something I've been grappling with since I watched the episode. I think I felt somewhere in the middle, leaning he doesn't know, And I say in the middle leaning, he doesn't know, insofar as I think he is so distraught and so guilty that he is having a legitimate moment of, I'm just so happy you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
That he is not necessarily actively, but passively ignoring obvious warning signs. And that he is so enraptured in, thank God you're okay. I got the ball rolling on this whole clusterfuck. I need to take responsibility. I need to fix this. I need to do the right thing. That he's not seeing the forest for the trees. Pun not intended, based on everything that just fucking happened.
I'm not seeing the forest for the trees, you know?
That he is, but I do think it's that. I think that he is bulldozing through warning signs and red flags and traffic cones up and until the point that May teaches him his own lesson, and then everything starts to click. That she is being so shifty, that she is speaking in a different cadence, that she's not taking care of Pip the way she should be. That all of those things kind of start to, oh fuck, it's May. And that it's like that it took him that long, because I think if he knew from the beginning, I think he would have been pleading with her already. And that, you know, that there's a great juxtaposition there, that yes, Kymir is, oh, if he's so evil, why is he so tender? Why is he so caring? Why is he taking such good care of her? He doesn't lock her up. There's nothing of this. It's because he is the trap. I don't need to put you in I don't need to bind you to your quarters when I know I can pick you up and liquefy you up against a rock if I have to. The reverse is true here, where Soul is like, I know I can't talk to you unless I literally pin you down. Because you don't want to hear what I have to say, and I get it. But we need to talk. So, and again, there is a, Kymir is deceiving Osha through the, again, very seductive, very faux tender touch of the dark side, whereas Soul is being very fucking honest in a way that is uncomfortable, that I think sets them apart. So yeah, I think he could have known if he was paying attention, but I think he chose not to.
I also
chose not to, but was unable to.
I think the darkness that like he showed like when he was about to kill Kymir also like is affecting him, and I think he's grappling with that, and that's probably why he, like you said, oh fuck, this is May. I wasn't paying attention, and now she's here, and I didn't know it. But what I love about Soul is I think he's like making the best out of it. Like he's such like, I think, a sincere, like genuine, like there's something about the way that he smiles where it's just like, oh wow, that's so like welcoming and loving. Like it's not. I know other Jedi like that we've seen before have had like a little bit of that, but I don't. It's just like from moment one, it was like, oh yeah, I can trust you, and I feel like he's gonna try to put that on May.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that there's again, I think that we are about to see the what the fuck happened on Brendock, man? Like the question of the day, what the fuck happened on Brendock? Of it all, that colors her perception of these events, that is heartbreaking, and I to give my thoughts on where I think this is going. I am of the mind that, and I don't necessarily know if I'm right or not, but this is just what I feel like would be the most devastating outcome. They catch up with Kymir. They kill him. And I think Soul takes the fall. I think Soul looks at this situation and goes, I don't want to subject these kids to anymore. Again, I don't know what he did on Brendock. It's clearly bothering him. And, I think the most tragic route to take it is that Soul truly was the only person acting like a Jedi on Brendock. That when the fighting started, when somebody puffed up their chest on either side, someone ignited a lightsaber, somebody cast a spell. I don't know who fired the first shot on Brendock, but I know there were only 2 survivors to our knowledge, and all the Jedi made it out alive. I won't say unscathed, but alive. And in that conflict, Soul remembered what the charge of the Jedi is: to heal those wounds, to be a guardian, and recognized there are 2 children who are unaccounted for, and a fire just started. And we can sit here and have a dick measuring contest, or we can make sure these kids are okay. And he was the only person who did his job. And that it is because he turned his back to go to do the right thing. He was not there to do the other right thing and de-escalate the situation. So he walks around with the guilt that he made a choice in that situation that was unwinnable. It was let these children die or try to avert conflict here. Because either way, something was going to go left in either one. So I think Soul, I do not think Soul has blood on his hands other than guilt that he is assigned to himself. And that he will very nobly take the fall. I don't know if Ernestra knows the full truth. I think they will arrive. I think Kymir will be dead. And I think Soul will be like, yeah, and I'm not going to drag you kids into an investigation of the return of the Sith. So this was me. It was all me. Maybe they fake Osha and May's death. And Soul is tried and maybe even executed for crimes he didn't commit to make it so that he can accept the blame here. Because if he doesn't, and again, and this is where you arrive at this really fucked up conundrum of like this like selfishness and selflessness kind of spectrum, right? If Soul takes the fall for everything Kymir and May have done, the blame falls on him, and he gets to know that he is being that he is being brought to justice for whatever happened on Brendock. Maybe he was more involved with the violence there, and he's like, I deserve to do time for this. I deserve to pay for this, for what I did to you too. And he goes away, and because he can just very easily cover this whole thing up, if it's just the 3 of them, they get to live the rest of their lives, and maybe they go into hiding, whatever. If Soul is able to kill Kymir, and he tells the truth, he becomes the lead in an investigation to uncover the Sith and becomes way too important to ever cast aside. And basically gets the immunity of being the guy who killed the first Sith in 1,000 years. And becomes untouchable in a way. Everything's riding on him. We don't have time for me to come clean about some horrific atrocity on Brendock. We don't have time for that because the Sith are back. That's where I think this is going.
What a way to... Wow, have to follow up that. Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. No, my hope, you've thought this through. I don't think I'm just kind of letting the show. I'm just letting myself enjoy the show. I have things where I'm like, okay, I think this might work. I would appreciate it if, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think, especially if they're going to do a season 2, I think it's most likely Soul's going to die or like get captured, or like you said, I don't think Vernestra's the Sith Lord.
I also don't think Vernestra is the Sith Lord.
We have so many books that she's in that haven't given any kind of inkling that she is related to any kind of Sith Lord, to the dark side, to anything like that. Maybe that they are like, okay, she's been through so much. This is she's turned to the dark side. I don't believe that. I'm not inclined to believe that. I think more often than not, like the story's going to be like, okay, Kymir and May, or Kymir gets killed. Osha reunites with May, and I think parts of your theory where it's like, okay, maybe they fake May and Osha's death, and they like are able to like be together and go off into the galaxy as twins and do what they were created to do or whatever. But I kind of think that like anything that happens with this, they're going to sweep under the rug. That's like, because
there has to be a cover. There has to be a cover.
Fully, like there's no. That's why I thought it was really stupid when people were like, "Well, how is Kitty Mundi is in this show, but he doesn't know about the Sith?" Well, because obviously,
because he doesn't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody says the S word in that meeting.
No. But what about the droid attack on the Wookiees though? Like he. Anyway, I don't have a coherent theory. I just think it's going to be my hope for the show is that Soul survives. Soul, May, and Osha survive. We see whoever Kymir's master is. It wouldn't surprise me if the master kills Kymir. And that's like, you have fucked up so much that you have almost shown our existence to our greatest enemy. And like now you've set us back, let's say 100 years. Like, that's
my big theory with Kymir has been that like he is so erratic and so holds a premium on this idea of freedom and liberation that he should be free to use the power of the dark side as he pleases. That like I think he lashed out as a Jedi, got kicked out, got evicted, right? They're like, you're not part of this team anymore, buddy. You can't be acting like that. And yes, I do subscribe to the idea that Vernestra was his master as a Jedi. I think it'd be
that's interesting. Interesting.
I think that puts a nice little extra parallel here and gives it a little bit more meat. I do like that idea.
So do I.
But I do like the idea. Like, yeah, you were way too into the concept of your own power for the Jedi and got kicked out, and we're too power hungry for even the fucking Sith. And that you went, well, I think this rule of two shit's stupid, went rogue, caused this whole fucking nightmare, and then your own master had to step in and be like, yo, what? And that's why he's going off and doing his own thing. He wants to give birth to, he doesn't want the Bainite Sith lineage. He does not want the rule of two. He's like, oh, the power of two. Yes, and like all of those ideas that are baked into the Sith ideology, but like he wants power. That's what he wants, power, and he wants to use it freely. Like he's truly an agent of chaos. Like his ideology, ideologically, he has more in common with the fucking Joker than he does with Darth Sidious. So I do think that like there's a good chance that his master whacks him.
Either that or his master thinks he's dead, and then like that's like, this was the Knights of Ren origin, and like he is the original Ren and all that. So that maybe that's it. But
I like the thing that I like about the Knights of Ren thing, that because like I do think because a lot of people have like brought up the helmet design and the Kylo Ren theme in that moment, and I think a lot of it is more to do. I think there's two layers to it. I think that you could make an argument that what happens in this show is Kymir getting the ball rolling on like a separate dark side sect that is, we work for the highest bidder. We're all about our own power and expressing that power and expressing that freedom. There is an ideological consistency with the Knights of Ren with Kymir. And I think there is something salient there. I think the other thing that I think is so important with those parallels is like, I think there's a thematic thing, obviously, with like, I think the Kylo Ren theme plays because it is teeing up this romance between light and dark and the Force heal and all of that, but I think it's also to do with, again, the corruptive nature of the dark side. Like Taylor brought this up. I thought it was so funny. I told her, I was like, this is because she brought up, and again, the fact that my girlfriend came to a Darth Vader parallel before I did is why I love her so much. She pointed out that like the way that the episode ends with Osha's heavy breathing under the helmet felt like Vader being locked into the suit in Revenge of the Sith. That moment of like being enveloped by this darkness truly for the first time. And I think there's a lot there, and I like all of those ideas. So I don't mind that I don't mind the idea that he like gets the ball rolling and it will kind of snowball into the Knights of Ren being a thing. I do think this is more to do with the ideas of seduction and the darkness and like, here are all these liberating things, but at the end of the day, it's you locked in a cage with yourself and your presence in the Force. And that is the best that the dark side has to offer you.
Damn.
We could talk about freedom. We could talk about liberation. We could talk about embracing those emotions. At the end of the day, the entire world is isolated away from you and you're stuck in here with yourself. And that's what that represents. I love Star Wars.
Star Wars. Me too. It's my favorite.
It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. I love the show.
Me too. Absolutely, man. I've been so blown away and surprised at how much I've loved it and how much they're doing something that's new, but like also feels true to Star Wars. So
that's the impossible trick of Star Wars, the old and new balance. But yeah, with that, I think we've reached the end of this conversation. So, Bill, what can the lovely people find you, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. If you still want to follow the podcast that we haven't recorded in a while, but we might do a last episode here in the next few weeks, follow us at Skywalking Through the League at Skywalking TL. Love you very, very much, Jared. Thank you for having me on as per usual. And don't remember, HOTTOGO. You can take me hot to go.
Let me tell you, seeing her live was a hell of a time.
Man, I'd love to see her live. She was in Louisville. For those of you who don't know, I'm in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky. And like, she was like near a bridge or something like that. And like, it was a 5,000 seat venue. And there was like, it was overlooking, the bridge was overlooking it. And they added like 15,000 additional people just like standing like on the bridge, watch it. Like, it's crazy. She's so good.
No,
so
she's incredible. Good. She's incredible. Let me tell you, I love her music. Obviously, my girlfriend got me hip to her. I'm bad at new music. That's a flaw I have. I have a habit of just kind of like falling back into like what I know I like. And a lot of that ends up being a lot of hip hop. So like I've never been as good at like getting onto like pop stuff as early as I'd like to. But Taylor was a very early adopter of Chapel Roan. Like she was bumping Chapel like last year.
Yeah.
Heavy bumping Chapel.
I was bumping Pink Pony Club a lot last year. So like that was, I heard her, and then like this in the past like 6 months, like it's really been like, oh, like, no, she's amazing.
Yeah. And all of her music is remarkable. Let me tell you, I think one of my favorite covers of all time is her Bad Romance cover.
I haven't heard it.
I don't know if it's on streaming or not, but she does it when she performs live. And wow, is it good?
I don't think that I have identified with the song as much as casual, because like just knee deep in the passenger seat and you're eating me out. Is it casual now? Like, come on. That's so good.
It's bars.
My God. Love it. But yeah, listen to Chapel Roan if you haven't.
Yes. Leave this podcast and go listen to the This is Chapel Roan playlist on Spotify.
Absolutely. Red, White Supernova, Hot to Go, Casual, Pink Pony Club. Do it now.
Good Luck Babe also.
Good Luck. Absolutely.
We got to hear Good Luck Babe so we saw her the night Good Luck Babe was released.
Ugh. That's so cool. That fucking rocks.
It was really good. It was really good. But yeah. Plugs for me up top, you guys. So this is being recorded and released on June 7th, June 8th, tomorrow July. At time of record.
July.
July. I say June.
You did, yeah.
I'm an idiot. July 8th tomorrow. We are recording the season 2 finale for Ionized Bastards.
Hell yeah.
There's a guys. I'm in a lightsaber duel. Lightsabers are burring.
Lightsaber go burr.
Burr. I'm doing that shit tomorrow night. That episode will be out the same day as our next Acolyte review, Friday, the 14th. Is it Friday's date? My calendar is not loading. Friday the 12th.
12th. There you go.
Friday the 12th.
Yeah.
I know math. I can do math. Friday the 12th. You will get our next episode of KNR. After this one, you will get Ionized Bastards season 2 finale, the penultimate season, the final episode of the penultimate season. And in a couple months, you start up on season 3, the final season of Ionized Bastards. So tune in for that. Get caught up if you haven't already to watch this gang of misfits save the galaxy one last time. And then the next episode of the Pro and Noob show with me and Mitch692, where we're watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, will drop that day as well. Check out Epic Confrontations. I forgot the name of the Trivia League. That is not a good sign. Some really good matches coming out this month as well. You got a twofer. And yeah, you can find me at Dark Jedi 2552 on all the things. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where you can go to that student store link and get some Teen App merch.
T-public.com.
And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to Paco and Ray Clausen at the $10 tier, and a special thank you to one of our new $5 patrons, one Brendan Marr of Page Turners. They were not. I did not see that he joined at the $5 tier until I was uploading stuff to the Patreon the other day. So he's been there a minute. So thank you to Brennan as well for your support. Versus series, we dropped 3 episodes back to back last weekend. That was, and you know what? We'll play a little fun game. I want to get Bill's takes on these. Okay. First up, Obi-Wan Kenobi circa The Phantom Menace versus Ezra Bridger circa Ahsoka. Who you got?
Obi-Wan, just because he was like truly like in the Jedi Order, like at the, to quote a often overused phrase, at the height of their powers. So like it. Just a little bit, not much. Padawan Obi-Wan by a little.
Okay. Darth Maul circa the Siege of Mandalore versus Shaak Ti.
Maul. Shaak Ti's been killed too many times. Maul's only been killed twice.
I want you to know.
It's 3 different times. Like it's 3 versus 2. So whoever has more. There you go.
I go to bat for Shaak Ti so fucking often that it's everybody undersells her on that argument that she can't stop dying.
Well, she was killed by was it Grievous?
Grievous, then Vader, then Starkiller.
Yeah. So like, and then for Maul, it's just actually no Obi-Wan. Like he doesn't really die. It just looks like he dies. So like 3 to 1, I guess. So there you go.
So that was a fun one. We've been doing this, bringing it all the way back to the beginning of the episode, hilariously. So when they released the unabridged audiobook for Darth Maul Shadowhunter, there's this passage in the book that I remember reading when I was a kid that I absolutely loved, and I thought about it for so long. And hearing Sam Witwer narrate it gave me goosebumps. And there's this moment in the book where Maul is like, because Shadowhunter takes place right before Phantom Menace. Where Maul is like waxing poetic in his mind about how much he can't wait to lead an attack on the Jedi Temple. And he's fantasizing about fighting specific Jedi. And one of them is Plo Koon. One of them, he's like, to take on Plo Koon and Mace Windu. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to give you Mace because Maul, I'm going to be honest, you're going to get your shit peeled back. You're getting folded by Mace Windu.
You got rocked by Ahsoka. Like Padawan is like left the Jedi Order Ahsoka. So like, come on.
But I was like, okay, I'll indulge you. Plo Koon versus Darth Maul. And we started doing this like little series inside of the Versus series where every season since season 3, we have done a like, okay, Maul, we'll entertain this. We will give you somebody from the end of the Clone War era for you to go toe-to-toe with. Last season was Sin Dralig, and then this season was Shakti. So you got Maul for this one?
I got Maul for this one.
This would be a 3-peat for Maul because we gave him Plo and we gave him Sin.
Well, I think it's got to be a 3-peat then. So it's 3-peat for how many times he's been cut in half and has gotten new mechanical arms and mechanical legs.
Yeah. A win for each set of legs. Yes.
Spider the first time. Weird kind of semi-spider, kind of
Grievous
legs, and then metal Sith magic, or no, Night Sister magic.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay. And then the third one, in my opinion, the hardest one to call.
Okay.
Rey Skywalker.
Okay.
Circa the Last Jedi.
Ooh.
Versus Luke Skywalker. Circa The Empire Strikes Back.
I'm going Rey.
Rey?
I'm going. Rey had been by herself for like, what was it, 15 years or something, like double-digit years at this point. Luke was just like getting used to it, and like Vader wasn't really trying. So like, I think
that's a big point of contention in the episode. Is
that's like
Vader was holding back that whole fight until the very end.
Yeah, and that's like. I'd go Rey just because I think that she is so strong in the Force and like can hold her own like from the beginning. So I'm a Rey Skywalker guy.
Okay. I'm gonna hit you with the next two because I'm having fun.
Okay, here we go. Let's do it. Give it to me.
Kelleran Beck versus the Grand Inquisitor.
Kelleran. I'm going Kelleran.
Okay.
I think Kelleran like. Truly, like he saved Grogu and like took on like how many clone troopers and got him away, and like the Grand Inquisitor, who did he like? He got stabbed. How many times did Kelleran Beck get stabbed? I'm just saying.
Your logic is infallible here.
None that we know of. So like that's where I'm at with that.
All right, last one. Mm-hmm. Redeemed Asajj Ventress.
Okay.
Galen Merrick, end of the Force Unleashed 1.
Are we talking like Asajj Ventress in like the Bad Batch?
Yeah.
Because he's so stupidly overpowered, like in that game, it's got to be in that universe that he's in. It's Galen, like because like he has so much power, like it's just a stupid amount of power.
I will not bore you at the end of this episode with it. Mm-hmm. Every time we have used Galen, I go on a long tirade about how he is not that powerful, and he's just really fucking crafty. Mm-hmm. And that when people treat Galen like he's a Force god or like you could never put him in the new canon, he's too powerful, I fully reject that idea.
No, you could put him in the new canon, but like
we need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of like the Force Unleashed 1 and 2 is just like that's not really how the Force works, if I could quote Han Solo. But like, what do I know?
But I have a lot of opinions about Starkiller, and when that episode comes out, I will send you the unlisted link because I will have you here all night explaining all of Galen's Force feats.
Oh, I know, I believe it. Impressive. I really do believe it.
Like they're impressive, but like he's not a god. Everyone talks about him like he's a fucking god, and he's not. And I refuse to engage with that. That's why I love him so much. It's video game shit that makes it look cool. He's not that powerful. Anyway. And that's a discussion for a different day. Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming by, buddy. Thank you. I was so pressed trying to figure out who I was going to have on this week because everybody's schedules were nightmares because of the 4th of July. And at that exact moment, I'm like, I don't even know who the fuck I'm going to have on. I don't even know if I'm going to have a show this week. You texted me the moment I had that thought. You're like, hey, I'd love to come back if you need to have an opening. Like, it was providence, and I appreciate you so much.
And producing on the fly. If you need someone next week too, let me know. I'm not just saying. I know a guy, baby. Come on.
Anyway, go follow Bayou Bill in all the places.
You gotta follow me on Twitter, baby.
Oh yeah, you gotta fuck. But thank you all so much for joining us. May the force be with you, and for light and life.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.